You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Welcome, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, and all those who question the universe around them. I'm Ty.
And I'm Bailey.
And it is Culttober. We're in the thick of it now, halfway through the month.
So exciting. So exciting. Do you know what you're going as?
It's fantastic.
Gomez,
probably, I think. Gomez Adams. Yeah, that's one.
Oh my gosh. That's so cute. I love it.
That's the plan so far.
I love it. So far, I am going as Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
Nice.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I'm always sending my girlfriends, I'm always sending them like the reels of her being like, yes, the room is yours. They are lucky to be in your presence. So I'm like, it makes sense. I have to do it. One of my girlfriends has to go as one of the Incredibles, though. So not sure who yet. Maybe I'll make Ben go.
There you go.
Mr. Incredible. That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be good. Today is file 028, Cult Talk Conspiracy. We're doing things a little different today, a little deviation of the format that we usually use. Today, we are going to take a look at the Hopkinsville Goblin encounter. Hopkinsville Kelly Goblin encounter, I think what they call it.
Mm-hmm. This is crazy.
Yeah, one of the most I don't know how to say documented. I think it might be the most documented alien encounter of all time, maybe.
It's certainly the most agreed upon, if anything.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things that people, when they're looking at this, it does not match up with any other UFO or alien encounter. It's crazy the amount of people that are involved and the as much as the stories line up. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's very few deviations from it. You can count them on one hand, basically.
Yeah, the deviations are very small, especially when it comes to describing the goblins. Mm-hmm. There are some slight deviations. There's 3 main deviations between them.
I have a theory on that. So.
But even still, though, even with the deviations, I mean, it's still basically the same being that they're describing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely freaking wild, and then just the media coverage on it, and it's wild. This is one of the ones where it's like, if you are an alien fan, conspirator, anything like that, and you don't know the Hopkinsville Kelly Goblin case, we're here to tell you. So
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. This is I can't imagine anyone that's involved that has a interest in UFOs or aliens. I don't see how they would not know about the Hopkinsville Kelly Goblin encounter, because it's so well covered and documented, and just so infamous that it'd be hard to overlook that.
Absolutely, yes, and even on the evidence side as well. I mean, there are things that were even discounted as evidence that don't make sense to discount. It's because listen, I can smell a cover up from a mile away, so you're not fooling me. Or at least I'd like to say you're not fooling me, but we'll see. We'll find out. But Ty, I think we're ready. I think we're ready to talk about this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So thank you guys for joining us here. This is our 3rd edition of Culttober, Cult Talk Conspiracy Encounters. Doing one every week. For the first time, we're going to do 5 episodes in this month. We've been doing encounters. We did vampire encounters with our good friends at the Farthest Reaches, and we had Cult of Lore guys over on here talk about werewolves, and now we're going to talk about the Hopkinsville Goblins. Originally, we were going to do a full month of encounters, was the original plan. We had a goblin encounter planned for this entry. Then the more we got talking about was, let's just cover the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Yes.
It made more sense just cover that, just talk about it, give all the details, nice little in-depth. Like I said, we're doing a different kind of format here, so for all of our loyal listeners, let us know what you think after this episode. If you liked it, if you like the original format, what you think of it, we're interested to know. So
absolutely, because this is going to be fun, guys.
Yeah, very different. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's unseal file 028. They don't come in peace. The Hopkinsville Goblins. So the Hopkinsville Goblins. Bailey, when's the first time you heard of this case?
Oh my gosh, long time ago, because I didn't realize, I just knew it as the Goblins encounter. I didn't know it was actually the Hopkinsville Kelly Goblins encounter, because, I'd seen the sketch, I heard the story. It was actually not the original encounter in 1955 that I had first heard about, but the encounter in 2011. That was the first time I had heard of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And then through further research and just kind of going down that rabbit hole, I found the encounter in 1955, which blew my mind. Absolutely.
See, that's weird. I'm not familiar with the 2011 one.
Oh, it's wild.
It doesn't ring a bell to me, anyways.
Oh, we might talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. I'd be interested. I'm not familiar with that one. So I guess Bailey, let's hear a little bit about Hopkinsville. Is it Hopkinsville, Kelly, Kentucky? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. So Hopkinsville is actually Kelly, is actually 7 miles north of Hopkinsville. So it's kind of like a Bourneville Bainbridge situation.
Okay.
Like small town and then bigger town, like right adjacent to it.
Okay.
So first of all, just so you guys know, if you ever want to know the history of Hopkinsville or Kelly, Kentucky, and you try to look up, let's say, 1955 Hopkinsville, Kentucky population, all you're going to get is this Goblins encounter. I promise you. I did it 8 times. Well, not 8 times, probably like 3 or 4. But just like refining my search and adjusting it. And it's like, Hopkinsville Goblin. Is this what you want? Ow. I mean, yes, but no. So, but aside from all that, there's really not much on Kelly Hopkinsville other than, it was a rural town in southwestern Kentucky. The Hopkinsville Police, which is where residents of Kelly would report to if there was any sort of law discrepancy, anything like that, was, which we'll talk about a little bit. And then Police Chief Russell Greenwell, who we'll also talk about, did remark specifically on one of the families that we're going to talk about, the Suttons, that this family was not the type to call or come to the police if they had any sort of trouble. They'd reach for their guns, in a direct quote.
Which they kind of do, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I mean, he's not lying. Which is typical, which seemed pretty typical for most of the residents of Kelly. So the Sutton farm was actually about 3 acres and 1-bedroom home that, this farm actually produced tobacco, vegetables for the home. And at one point it had a goat pen. There were 3 maple trees at one point, and the livestock consisted of pigs, cats, kittens, 1 dog, and possibly goats. So the 1-bedroom home was not only 1 story, it also had an iron roof, and there was a front and a back porch, which neither one of those doors had locks on them. In the middle of the home, which really separated the front room from the back room, the back bedroom, was a hallway they called the dog walk, which you could get in and outside from. Also, that door did not have a lock.
Now, I know, now when I'm doing the research, we found this really good resource. It's this book. I think it came out in the 50s or the 60s or something.
Yeah,
it's in the public domain now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Close Encounters at Kelly and Others of 1955.
Yes,
and it has a ton of information.
Yes,
it came out in 1978. It was from the Center of UFO Studies by Isabel Davis and Ted Blocher. And it has like maps and illustrations of the interior of the house, of Hopkins Kelly, of the farm. It is insane. It has really detailed, illustrations to kind of, so when you're reading the investigation, you can kind of place where things are to make a little more sense. It's really good.
That's exactly.
I'll make sure to link that below.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I have that downloaded on my computer. It's so good. But that's actually where we got the layout for the house, was from that book. She went to Hopkinsville in 1956 and then did all kinds of research afterward. And she also listed out the residents of the home, which we'll go through really quick. that would be Glennie Langford, who was the homeowner, J.C. Sutton, which was the son of Glennie who ran the family farm. He was the first son from her first husband, or her oldest son from her first husband, excuse me. And then there was Aileen, who was JC's wife, who also worked and lived on the farm. There's a lot of people in this. So Lainey Charlton and Mary Sutton were the youngest children. They were all, I think, below the age of 15. And they were her children from her second husband. So one important thing to note about this home was there was no radio, there was no TV, and their only source of water came from a well on the property, which was located in the back.
Yeah, they were pretty simple people.
They were, they were out there. Like,
my
no public water source. No.
My mom's family, that's the way they live. They live very rural. When I was a kid, we had to go use the outhouse, the haul water, bathe in the creek, all that stuff. That was the way. Whenever I went out to my mom's to stay with my grandparents, that's what we had to do. It was a very, very different way of living out there. Just in the middle of nowhere. There's like nothing out there. It was a very different way of living.
That's so strange to me because I've lived in the city pretty much my whole life. So
I'll never go back to it. That's why I live in the city now. I'll never go back to that.
I couldn't have an outhouse. I couldn't do it. Absolutely not.
That was like a big thing. Every few summers, we'd have to. My grandma would have all the boys come down. We'd have to dig a big hole and move the outhouse to the new hole and cover the old one.
Why did the boys have to do it? Why didn't the girls get in on this action?
That's the way it was. It's even still the way they are out there. Like it's always like anytime there's like an event or something has done, it's like the boys and the girls will do things. So it's very old fashioned.
That is. Oh my gosh. Speaking of being old fashioned, it is very important to note that Mrs. Langford did not allow drinking or alcohol to be consumed or even on the property whatsoever.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no. So that is going to be an important note later. So Elmer Sutton, who was the oldest son of Glennie, I believe I said that JC was the oldest son earlier. He is the second born child.
Yeah, it would have been Lucky. Lucky's 25.
Yeah. Yes.
And JC's 21. So yeah, it'd been Lucky.
Okay. Yeah. So he was there with his wife Vera, and then his friend Billy Ray Taylor, and his wife June.
They were so Billy Ray and Lucky. They worked in the carnival circuit together. They were carny folk, which is an interesting note that I never knew. They were carny folk, traveled around with the carnival. That's just an interesting thing I never knew was part of the story.
I tried to find what their actual occupation was through the carnival, what it was that they did. Right. I think they just helped move around and whatnot.
Okay. I didn't see a real idea. I didn't see a real indication of if one of them was like a freak or anything like that.
Yeah. One of them's a lion tamer or a magician or something.
Like I didn't see anything interesting like that.
No. I would have been cool though, because halfway through researching that, I went, so Bailey, you have to remember this was in 1955. They didn't exactly have everything computerized back then. That was just me. Because I'm like, why can't I find it? Oh yeah, and then O.P. Baker was also at the home, which was Aileen's brother.
Yep.
So I counted 11 people.
11 people.
11, okay. Because at one point I was like, were there 12? And then I
11, but I remember reading something that there was even a discrepancy there because like with a lot of stories, especially in the 50s, they tell a story to someone, that person tells a story to someone else. I think there was one point someone was saying there was 13 people there, but I think that was just misinformation, just over the retelling the story. But it seems like it's pretty indicative that there's 11 people, and it's the Sutton Langford family, their friends and relatives. So just 11 people.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and then we'll talk about it a little later on, but those kids are going to come back up a little later on in the future. So, but that's what I got on the history. I know it's not a big history on Hopkinsville, but really there wasn't all that much. What we did get some details on that.
It doesn't seem like there was much to that town. I know when I was doing a little bit of research, it got kind of popular. That solar eclipse happened a few years back, a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Apparently, like this was a really good spot to go to see it. So like photographers and stuff were like going to Hopkinsville because it was a good like area to see that solar eclipse. So a lot of photographers and shit went there.
Probably.
But I read that like that was something. It was apparently was a hot spot for photographers during the solar eclipse a few years back.
That's cool. That's super cool. Maybe I'll talk about that later. That's another theory.
But all these events, for the most part, everything takes place. It's a Sunday evening, August 21st, 1955. Looks like Lucky and his fiance or his wife had returned back to the carnival. They brought along with them his friend Billy Ray Taylor and his wife June Taylor. And from all accounts, they were settling in for a nice dinner. They were about to have a big dinner. And Billy Ray was sent off to go fetch water. Like Bailey said, they have to go fetch water. So he had to go to the well. Now, while he's out there, he saw what he described as a silver bathtub. I think that's what he called it.
Mm-hmm.
A metallic bathtub that he saw shoot across the sky. And he said it spit out of it a trail that featured all the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, that's cool.
So he saw this streak across the sky and land. Now, even 1955, this is pretty deep into the Martian Man, pop culture thing. There's all kinds of movies coming out of E.T.'s landing and invading the Capitol and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that out.
When did War of the Worlds come out?
Which one? The movie?
The original. Not the original. Oh gosh, I'm thinking too quick. It was a radio broadcast.
Yeah, the Orson Welles.
Had come out. Yes. What year did that come out?
I'm not sure what the date is, what the year is on that. But it would have been around this time. It would have been before this. I'm fairly certain. It
was on October 30th, 1938.
Yeah, so it was way well before this. So the idea of like aliens and things like that was pretty well in the social conscious. So much so that even Billy Ray had kind of, when he first saw it, he wondered to himself if he was just seeing, if he wasn't seeing something that was real, if he just thought he was seeing something that he had heard on the radio or read in a book or seen on a movie. Like he himself even questioned whether or not he was actually seeing this or not.
Yeah, or being influenced by modern media. Yeah,
but nonetheless, he goes back to the Langford home, tells them what he saw, and it's not too long after that they start to hear the family dogs start going crazy all over the farm. They're barking. They're very aggressive acting, and the men step on the front porch, and there they see their first glimpse of what will be known as the Hopkinsville Goblin. Now, they described it as a very short, 4 to 3 foot tall being, long arms, very muscular upper body, they said.
Yeah.
Long, floppy ears that pointed up.
Yeah.
And its arms were so long that they were dragging the ground almost, but very skinny legs, they put it as. And they theorized that maybe the legs were so skinny because maybe these beings didn't quite use their legs. Because even when they walked almost in this odd kind of way of like if you're wading through water, like you were walking through like waist high water.
Yeah,
how you kind of have to push forward. The monsters are even kind of walking that way, or the goblins. Now, one interesting thing that I found was that so they see this thing out in front of them. Now, what is this thing doing? Is it running at them? Is it rushing them? Is it making any kind of gestures? It is actually approaching them with its hands held above its head, like it's being stood up, like it's being stood up. Like they're already holding a gun at it. Yeah,
like, don't shoot.
It's that. So, now to me that seems like a pretty passive gesture. It's not aggressive in any way.
here's my 2 cents on the matter. You're not human, and you're on my property, and I don't know what your plans are, so let's just agree to disagree that we're gonna have weapons, and if you come at me with your hands up, you better be slow, and you better not make any sudden movements, because I don't fucking trust you. Like, absolutely not. Ben's looking at me in agreement right now. He's like, yup.
Hippity hoppity off of my property.
Hippity hoppity off of my property.
Oh, shit.
And then you can come inside and we can have tea and we can talk about how we make world peace between both of our universes. After I put my gun down. At some point.
Now, now, of course, they see this thing coming at him with his hands up. And instead of, trying to figure out what it wants, they go retrieve one of their guns. And they shoot the creature. They shoot it, and once they shoot it, this thing doesn't fall down. It doesn't, feign an injury. Instead, what happens is they hit it, and it does a moonsault backwards, and and then just turns and walks into the woods
like a tumble.
They shoot it, and it just flipped backwards, just moonsaulted backwards. And just turned, didn't make a noise, didn't make any sort of sound, just was like, all right, well, I'm leaving.
Like, I'm fucking off then. Okay, thanks. Like, all right, that's how you feel.
Now that was already weird enough. Now the men, they're trying to figure out what the hell just happened. What's going on? Lucky's telling them about, or not Lucky, but Billy Ray's telling them about this thing he saw. They're kind of starting to draw a correlation between this UFO, which they're not called a UFO yet, and this goblin, or this creature, this being that they've saw. Well, soon after that, one of the women scream because another, or the creature, is staring through the window. Now, the men take action. The thing kind of goes off, it disappears. But then on the other side of the house, another one appears. Now, this is kind of where it gets kind of weird, because in later accounts, the number of goblins is kind of questionable. People don't. There's an estimate that there may have been up to like a dozen of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, was it a dozen, or was it just that there was like 3 or 4 that were able to maneuver around the house in such a way that it seemed like there was more? Because they turn, there's one. They turn, there's one, kind of thing. So was it multiple, or was it a dozen, or was it just a few that were moving so quickly that it was appearing to be more? So that's something that a lot of people have questioned, whether it's one or the other.
I think
because they never see more than 2 or 3 at a time.
See, I think it's 2 or 3.
It's really up in the air about how many there actually were. 'Cause it's one of those things where it wasn't a horde of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Or just these really fast, like a few, which is what most people kind of think it was, but no one can really say for sure.
I was just going to say, we don't know how fast they actually were. So it could have been just a few, just moving at an increased speed,
Right. Now, the descriptions of the goblins, like we said, small, 3 to 4 feet, big heads, long arms, small legs. Kind of fits basically the general gist of what many people think of when they think of aliens.
Yeah.
Now, with the group of people we have there, we have 11 people. The descriptions of the creatures are, for the most part, spot on, with small deviations. There's debate on whether or not they have noses.
Yeah.
No one knew if they had noses or not, or if it was just a smooth face. One of the women basically said, there's no way you could tell what their facial features are, because they had these large, glowing yellow eyes. And she was saying, that it's really hard to focus even on what you're looking at, because you're so affixed on these eyes, because they're so distracting. So there was that. Now, they had ears. There's also a debate on whether or not they had antenna.
Really?
There are a couple of reports they have antenna. If you look at the 3 main drawings, there's 3 main drawings of the Hopkinsville Goblins. And one of them does include antenna, because that was some of the members of the household did claim that they saw antenna.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The biggest one that I found was the shape of the head.
Yes.
Was it more circular, or was it kind of like an egg?
Yes, that was a debate too. The shape of the head, the facial features, and the antenna.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the body and everything seemed like it pretty much lined up through all the descriptions for the most part.
Yeah. Especially that of the hands. The hands freaked me out because they had like no discernible knuckles, but it looked like their fingers ended in talons.
Oh,
yeah,
that's scary.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't like that because they really just, their arms were as long as their entire body was. It's it's freaky. That would freak me out. Mm-mm. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think if you see something that something as bizarre as one of the goblins, and you see the talons, that definitely is an added layer of fear you're going to have, because at that point you're thinking predator if they have talons.
So do you blame them for shooting now?
I don't know. I'm still blame for shooting. I don't know. It seemed like a little. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on. It's one of those situations where you don't know how you would react. It's easy to look from the was outside in, is how they say it. It's all about, and be like, oh, I wouldn't do that, or how stupid of that person to do that. But you don't really know how you would react to that. It's like in horror movies when characters do something stupid, everyone's like, oh, what the fuck are they thinking? It's like, yeah, but if you're being like chased by this like malevolent monster or this serial killer, you're pretty much all senses out of you. Like you're just in this state of panic. I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was in an open house, and me and the other realtor scared the wits out of each other because we had heard, and this was an older house, and I won't say what it was or anything, but it was an older house, and we had gotten reports that the house was actually haunted. So this is a side quest. So I go upstairs all by myself because, big badass Bailey, gonna go up and be like, I'm gonna ghost hunt. I have a conspiracy podcast. I am a ghost hunter. So I go up there and I'm hanging out up there, and the other realtor decides I'm gonna go up and scare the wits out of her. And she sneaks up around the back staircase, and I start hearing her come up, and I don't know what it is. So I run over, and to make a short story long, we scare the crap out of each other coming around this corner. And I always thought, I'm either going to be a fight or flight. It turns out I'm a freeze because I just froze in fear. So I don't know how reliable I'll be in a life or death sudden situation. But
yeah, because it's easy to be like, I'll definitely be this fighter, and I'll know what to do. But when you actually face a situation, you're really not sure how you're going to react.
No idea. I was frozen in straight fear. So that's my little side quest story for the day.
So I don't know if I can blame them for shootings. It was pretty scary.
That would terrify. Because if they're coming. If they had their hands up, they would see the talons right off the bat. If that was at the end of their fingers, they'd see it.
Right. Now, people have kind of said, maybe this was a kind of like a gesture, but like you would think, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. It could have been some form of communication. No one really knows.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, whenever they would see these things kind of approach, they would be in a similar kind of position, staying with their hands up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something else they noticed during this encounter was that these goblins, they stayed away from the front porch. Once the porch lights were turned on, they stayed away from that area. And they said it wasn't so much like they were avoiding it to stay hidden, because they'd already made themselves very present there. It was they did not like the light, is what it seemed like. They were avoiding the light. They didn't like it. So that's something they noticed. They started turning all the lights on in the house and things like that.
I wonder,
to kind of deter the beings.
Well, I guess space is dark. So if that's
space is dark. Maybe it could have been just like the harshness of those halogen bulbs or whatever they was using. Could have been they didn't like, but
don't certain bulbs give off like a frequency too, like a sound?
They can, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So it could have been something like that, yeah. But they were actively avoiding the light. And not to stay hidden, it's just they did not like the light. Now, this went on for several hours until eventually these things just up and left. They just were no longer there. Now the family, of course, terrified, petrified. Now the story does get really muddy toward the end because there's reports that the way the report I've always heard is that all of a sudden in the town of Hopkinsville, the Suttons storm into town, petrified, blubbering about aliens, panicked and scared.
Yeah.
And that's what spurs the investigation. But what actually happened, what I found was that didn't happen at all. What basically happened was this happened, the encounter occurred, and then the next day the Suttons went into town for just their daily business. They went in just to get their supplies that they usually would for the farm, and just offhandedly mentioned, like, by the way, last night we had this really weird thing happen.
Holy shit!
So that's how it happened.
No!
Yeah. So people always say it's like this thing where they run in town and we shot aliens. There's aliens coming after us, but that's not how it happened at all. It was just they just brought it. They went to town for their usual business and were like, hey, last night we had some crazy stuff happen.
Well, yeah, they were probably trying to figure out if it happened to anybody else. Like, that makes sense. You're gonna like, hey, did you guys get invaded last night? No? Okay. Alrighty.
Now, after this, though, the police went up to the Langford farm. They found obvious signs of, some sort of firefight of, I don't know what you call it, a firefight, but they found evidence of, bullets and, they were shooting out from the cabin into the woods.
It was
things like that. They found, all the kids were terrified. Everyone was acting a bit off because they had just went through this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even fathom it to be an adult and try to explain to a child what just happened when you don't even know what it is that, first of all, you saw.
Yep.
Second of all, it just, how do you rationalize that as being a person and as an adult within your own self, and then having to go back and explain that to a little youngster? That would be absolutely insane to me.
Well, it's even crazy too that the kids, were also part of the investigation. Obviously, when it was looked into, they questioned everyone. Even the kids' stories lined up for the most part with the rest of the family. I mean, the deviations in the stories are minimal amongst the whole family. It's one of the craziest things about it is that all these people have just similar story and really nothing to gain either. They didn't gain anything out of it.
No, they didn't. It's actually funny you bring that up because as a result of, more and more people finding out, of course, there were media reports and, all kinds of convoluted stories and whatnot. And while this was going on, there were, sightseers and, even naysayers and media, of course, coming to the property. And the Suttons had gone to the police, according to reports, trying to get these people off of their property. And the police were like, there's nothing we can do. We're sorry.
I read one report they was talking about basically their farm became, it's funny, it says the farm basically became like a carnival.
Oh, yeah.
People were there posting up little stands and stuff, and they would just find people camping on their property. They even had people just walk into their house, just come to the front door to get a look at the layout of the house.
Absolutely,
these alien investigators who would just kind of just barge in and start going through their shit.
Oh my gosh! First of all, you guys remember the part of the story where they had a shootout with entities they did not know on their property. We remember that part of the story? Okay, I consider that constructive notice. But, so what they finally did as sort of a deterrent and to kind of make lemonade out of lemons was they started charging people to come onto their property, charging them money. And then, of course, that led into further ridicule and assumption and even solidified to some people that they were doing this and making this story up for profit.
Yeah.
And it's you guys don't understand. Like, they have tried to get these people off of their property, and they're like, because I get it. I 100% get it. Like, if there's nothing else we can do, let's charge him $1 to come in. Like, you're going to be here. You're going to abide by my rules.
Yeah. I mean, if these people are just coming there anyways, invading their space, why not just make a little money out of it as well? I mean, they endured this, crazy encounter. Just get some money out of it. I don't think that, solidifies that they made it up. So it didn't seem like they really enjoyed it. All these people coming up and trying to get in their house and shit. But
exactly. And I mean, they have farmland too. So I mean, where these people are like camping out in and whatnot, I don't know for sure, but it could disrupt like the harvest and their crops.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
they're working, and these are people's livelihoods that you're camping on.
Absolutely.
One media reporter, quote unquote, was Andrew B. Bud Ludwith, who was the engineer announcer for the radio station WHOP, WAP.
The WAP.
The WAP. And he was actually, according to Isabel Davis in the Close Encounters at Kelly, phenomenal book, by the way. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
really great reference. Like I said, I'm gonna have that linked below because it's a super a really in-depth reference if you're interested in this at all.
I started reading it and like I kind of couldn't stop. So it was one of those where it's like it's only 230 pages. It's like, yeah, I can get this done in a couple hours.
Yeah, and so much detail as well, like illustrations of everything. It was fantastic.
they have
great find.
Map of the town they even have the architectural plot plan of the home. Like it's cool. She put a lot of love and effort into that book.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Bud. He was actually the first media, quote unquote, to reach the Suttons. He actually met with them the day after the encounter, according to the book. And the women went first and the men went second with their tellings of the tales to Bud because the men had actually gone to Innsville, Indiana. Later that day. So they were both the women and the men were interviewed in detail. They both gave a description of the creatures for the sketches, and the sketches that we know today as the Hopkinsville Goblins are those of Bud Ludwith.
Okay.
So we have him to thank for those sketches. So here's my theory about the different goblins that we see with the different shapes of heads and different stuff. I think they're different genders.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
but that was before I knew about the antenna. Now the antenna one, I have no idea. Maybe they have more than two. I don't know. But that's what I think is like they're different genders, maybe different hybrids of different species. Because it was really funny because I found that all the women kind of described the head as being circular, whereas all the men described the heads as being more egg-shaped. So I thought it was really weird that...
That is odd, yeah.
Yeah, we had a clear segregation of the two thoughts. So we talked a little bit about Police Chief Russell Greenwell in the beginning. He not only played an important part of this investigation, he also played an important part in the town of Hopkins as well. He really kind of helped reform the police and got along well with the founders of the town and all that good stuff. So the fact that they had kind of his backing on this and, him going through and really investigating with the Hopkinsville police, the state police, and 2 officers from the military really put a lot of seriousness into this claim. So ultimately, they found nothing. Unfortunately, they found that there was an obvious, firefight like we discussed. But one thing that they did find, and this is the one piece of evidence I really think needed to be further looked into, was they did find an illuminated metallic glowy area on the farm where the grass had looked like it had been sprayed with something.
Yeah, I read about that. Like it had like a luminescence to it.
Yeah, it was an illuminescence that had never been seen before on the property, but it was ruled out to be a naturally occurring phenomenon by an illuminating fungus that no one living on the property had noticed before.
Wow.
That's the one thing I wanted looked into more, was this phosphorescent light that is supposedly caused by a fungus that, number one, would not have been native to the area, and number two, no one else had noticed on that property before. Because remember, these are people whose that property, that's their livelihood. They know every inch of that.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Because, yeah, they would have. I mean, it was a farm, but they've lived on their entire lives. I mean,
Mhm.
and it's, the 50s. I mean, you're working on that farm day in, day out.
And it's
So,
not native to Kentucky. You find that stuff
Yeah,
in, like,
that's even weirder. Yeah.
like southeastern countries and whatnot, where you have a lot of humidity and raininess come down that can create the fungi. So that was my little take on that one.
Now there are other theories though
Mhm.
about what these things may be. Talk a little about that. The commonly held theory to anyone that's a detractor of the Hopkinsville Goblins is actually that these are the great horned owls.
Yep.
A group of great horned owls. Now, a lot of things do correlate with this. They're nocturnal.
Mhm.
They have yellow eyes. They move very silently,
Mhm.
and they aggressively defend their nests. So the idea is that maybe these horned owls had, put a nest here at the Langford farm.
Mhm.
Billy Ray, when he went out to get water, maybe disturbed them. They defended it, and that's when the whole shootout began. There's also a lot of people that presume intoxication played a factor in this, but like you said, Miss Langford did not allow any alcohol or drugs at all on her property.
Very old fashioned.
But that is the commonly held theory, is that these great horned owls had a nest. It was disturbed. They defended it, and the men were under intoxication and started shooting at these owls.
Maybe they got into some illuminated fungi, and that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if there's a way you can explain that through that.
So my question about the owls is, number one, do they move in swarms? Like, is there typically more than one to an area?
I imagine it'd be like a couple, like a pair.
Okay. And then number two, so I would imagine it takes more than a couple hours to build a nest. Like, because I mean, like we've already established, these people are on this property every single day. So I would imagine that nest would either have to be built rather quickly.
Well, what they were saying was that it was built there, but when Billy Ray, not knowing the lay of the farm, somehow when he was out there, he disturbed it somehow when he was going to get water.
I see.
Now the owls as well, they measure around 2 feet tall, so it kind of lines up with they're saying it's between 2-3 feet tall.
Yeah.
So that kind of lines up there.
The ears coming up to a point.
Now, even at the same time that this happened, there was actually a meteor sighting as well. It was I guess there's not a name for it, but there was a meteor sighting at the time that people think that maybe that's what Billy Ray saw. So these kind of similarities, so these coincidences, I guess, line up.
But how do you explain the tapping and what they saw and everything if it was just a meteor?
Right. I mean, it's definitely not a perfect explanation, but if you're a detractor of the Hopkinsville Goblins, this is the common explanation.
Yeah.
That this guy was drunk, saw a meteor, got scared, disturbed a nest of the great horned owls, ran back to his house where his other drinking buddies were. And these owls were pissed off that their nest was disturbed, and these dudes started shooting at them and scaring their family, claiming there's aliens out there.
Yeah. And I mean, if you'd never seen an owl like that before, I mean, 2 feet's a pretty big animal, let alone a winged animal. So I could see where that would like scare somebody, but I think at one point, because they said even the women had seen it.
Yeah.
So were the women drunk too, or?
It could have been that maybe the women were just so scared at
That's
that point.
true too. Yeah.
Yeah. Their husbands are shooting at things and screaming about aliens.
Uh-huh.
And maybe it's like a mass hysteria thing just took over the household.
interesting.
That's the theory, anyways. Not the official explanation.
I think they're really out there. I think they are because. Do we want to talk about the 2011 encounter?
Yeah. Let's hear about 2011 encounter.
Awesome. So this is very anonymous. So basically what happened was there was a series of emails that was sent to paranormal investigators. And it was a doctor who was not going after or not going based off of his real name because he was afraid that if some of his colleagues or even patients found out about this, he could possibly lose his livelihood as a doctor and damage his reputation as well. So he never came out and told us who he really was. So we don't really know a whole lot about this. So, but we do know is what he detailed in the 3 emails he sent to paranormal investigators, which basically was that him, his wife, and his daughter had been terrorized at night by these creatures, goblins, that were on his property. He had lived in the home for about 7 months when he first started emailing the investigators, and he had pretty much detailed that they were terrorized every night. One of his dogs had gone missing as a result of this. He said that his daughter actually saw some of the creatures, and him and his wife had found out about it the very next morning at breakfast when she had asked about the bald children that were playing outside, which was also terrifying because in the mornings, they would find their yard in complete disarray. There would be things on the porch that were knocked over. There would be just all kinds of things that were not in the right place. The biggest part probably being the tracks that the doctor found. The doctor actually found footprints of these 3-toed prints in the mud that looked like a human foot without a heel. So like the top part of a human foot with like 3 big toes, and like they're little, they're tiny, which would help match the daughter's description of the 3 bald children. Bald, like hairless, and then children 3-4 foot. So the doctor basically pleaded with these paranormal investigators to come and not only investigate his property, but investigate a mine that was not too far off of the property, like a mine cave. And this was where the doctor believed that the creatures were coming from at night. Like this was where they were coming out of to come terrorize his property. So he was absolutely terrified to go in there. He's like, I'm not doing it. Someone else, please come do this for me.
I think there's a show on Amazon Prime about this.
Hellier.
Yes. Okay. I've seen Hellier.
Yes. It is a mockumentary.
Okay.
There are there's actual emails and stuff that came from these paranormal investigators.
Okay.
They use the actual emails. It's super freaking cool. But yeah, all of this stuff happened. The doctor only lived there for less than a year before fleeing with his family after the creatures had, tapped on the windows and had pretty much terrorized the family, creating noises, banging on the walls, just being very defensive of the property there. So doctor split and left and then sent the photos of the footprints.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's all I know about the 2011 encounter. However, I do know, and this was pretty funny, that the Hopkins Goblins case has actually been used in the scientific skepticism way of thinking, the scientific way of thinking, in order to discern fact from fiction. The study and when Hopkinsville was used as an example, was written by Rodney Schmaltz and Scott O. Lilienfeld. And that article can be located somewhere. I had it up, okay. I had it. I don't know where I put it. Oh, here it is. Yes, it is the National Library of Medicine, and this was used for front psychol. And we'll link it. It's actually kind of interesting the way that they talk about the scientific thinking and discerning fact from fiction. And they actually do accredit the goblins to being the horned owls in this. So
yeah, it seems like it's pretty commonly held theory. Another I guess, accolade that this Hopkinsville Goblin Encounters holds is that it is actually the origin of the term little green men.
But they're not green. They might have been.
They might have been.
They might have been green.
But the term little green men comes from the Hopkinsville Goblin Encounters.
That's cool.
That's where that comes from.
I like
And it also has another pretty big accolade to it. You know, this movie inspired one of the biggest films of the 1980s?
And what was that movie?
E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
That shifty bastard.
So Steven Spielberg actually read about this encounter and it inspired him to write it was originally going to be a much darker film called Night Skies.
I bet I would have liked that one.
Maybe. It had Tobe Hooper involved. Tobe Hooper, of course, man behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, okay.
They were actually working on it. It was going to have a similar kind of feel to E.T., but more of a darker tone. You know, it was still going to involve an alien creature befriending a boy, but it was going to also have like alien antagonists. There was going to be an evil alien named Scar. Now, this was actually going to be included in the sequel to E.T. as well. These elements were going to be incorporated in the E.T. sequel, which I believe I've talked about somewhere in one of our episodes of something. I have a memory of talking about it or something. But there was going to be an ET2 Night Skies, but Night Skies was the original script, and it was directly inspired by the Hopkinsville Goblins, which turned into E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
I feel like Hopkinsville Goblins needs like its own movie.
Yeah, I feel like it'd make a great flick. It'd make a really good movie. An alien siege movie. I mean, that's fantastic.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so it had a pretty big impact on pop culture, on UFO culture, scientific culture. I mean,
it makes sense why E.T. looks the way he does with knowing the inspiration behind it, actually. Now, I'm not going to look it up. I'm pulling it from memory. But that makes kind of sense now. Honestly, he would have been a lot cuter if he looked like a Hopkinsville goblin, but I mean, I get it.
Now, if you want to see like kind of a Hopkinsville-esque movie, there's a movie called The McPherson Tape. Have you ever seen it?
I think I have. I think it
came out in 1989. It's a found footage movie. It follows a lot of the same beats as the Hopkinsville Goblins. So basically, like this family is celebrating a birthday party. They have a camcorder. They see a UFO land, and then the house is besieged by aliens.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this.
Yeah, and at the end, the aliens come and take the family. Yes. But it came out in 1989. For a long time, because this is 1989. Found footage was not like a thing yet. So when it came out, people thought it was like a real thing.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So for a long time, it was held as like, you know, a lot of people didn't know would think this was like a real tape that got released of this alien abduction. It got remade in the 90s, 1998, as the Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County. And it's a remake of the McPherson Tape with a bigger budget and things like that. But
okay.
I think it was like made for like UPN or something like that. TV stations. But yeah, that was really good. But yeah, that follows a lot. That's definitely inspired by the Hopkinsville Goblins.
I love that. That's super cool. This encounter actually reminded me, and I don't know why, but it just reminded me of Encounters of the Fourth Kind. For some reason,
Oh, yeah.
I got big Encounters of the Fourth Kind vibes from it. Plus, that's just an awesome movie.
I love that movie. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, it's great. Did you know how reluctant like the family was to talk about this?
No.
Yeah. So I guess like when Isabel Davis went to the property to go talk with the new homeowner because Mrs. Lankford was not living at that property anymore, I guess she had to have a police escort out there. And she also had to have the police chief, who was still Russell Greenwood at the time, call the new homeowner, Mrs. McCord, and be like, hey, can I bring this lady out to come talk to you? And they were like, yeah, we'll talk with her. But a lot of the family were like adamantly against talking to anyone after the media circles and whatnot. They were
that just further kind of like solidifies that they weren't doing it for attention. Because if you wanted attention, you would milk the attention. You wouldn't turn away people wanting to engage and talk about this kind of stuff. You would welcome it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like none of the family that I know of wrote like any books or anything on it, or like, really gained anything. The closest thing that I found to it was Elmer Lucky's daughter, Geraldine, just coming out and saying, like, listen, it wasn't within my dad or Billy Taylor's character to lie about something like this. And that's really like the only thing that has come out since.
Wow.
So craziness. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Craziness.
So what do you think? Do you believe it? Do you believe it happened?
Oh,
You
yeah.
do?
I think it happened.
I do too. I believe that something happened out there. Like I said, just too many things. I mean, you would think if it was made up, they'd be trying to milk it for attention or trying to make some more money off of it, other than a couple bucks for people coming to visit their property.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, Ty, it's only 5 hours and 45 minutes away from Chillicothe. We should go.
There we go. Yeah. I'm surprised they don't do like a festival or something. Let's look into that.
There
Probably is like a Hopkinsville Goblin Festival or something.
I bet there is. I bet there
Kentucky,
is.
there's a lot of weird stuff takes place in Kentucky, around this area here in our little tri-state, Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. A lot of weird stuff.
This is just a weird area. I don't know why. Like that, and like it's like the really like both the coasts are just really weird, and I don't know why, because like even out in like Nevada, like there was all kinds of like UFO sightings and everything, and that
the desert, the high country. But so out there, I mean, so with the Hopkinsville Goblins, it is still, even today, it's considered by ufologists, alien enthusiasts as as the most like definitive alien encounter ever recorded. Still this day, it's held that way. It's yet to be dethroned as like the main encounter that people reference when they're talking about aliens and interacting with humans. I think even like talking about how humans would react to seeing an alien, I mean, I think would be a good lesson to take from that as well. Because like these things didn't seem like they were outright aggressive. It was just kind of.
They honestly seem curious.
They seem curious.
Like
it didn't seem like they were trying to harm anyone. They started getting shot at, but even then, it's scary too that they got shot and didn't react.
I think one of the stories I heard said like the bullet like didn't even like bother them. They were just like, that's fine. Like didn't penetrate or like anything. So I don't know. They're eating their Wheaties, I guess, or whatever Wheaties are out in space. But I would probably freeze and then like scream, or I would just get really excited and ask a bunch of questions. But knowing me, it would be the one that's super aggressive that I'd start asking a bunch of questions to, and then they'd be like, "Human talk, no more."
I think that's good for us talking about this file 028. This is something I want to talk about for a while. Hopkinsville Goblins.
I know.
We tried this new format. I want to hear from you guys what you think of that. Via file 028. We're almost to 30. Another benchmark we got coming up. So
I know.
And we're not done with Culttober yet. Next week, join us here next Tuesday for a very special guest, our good friend Essie. He's our editor. He edits all of Cult Talk Conspiracy's main episodes. So he'll be joining us to talk about ghost encounters.
Yes! I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be all right.
It's going to be fun. You're going to have a great time. You're going to come out with a new perspective.
We'll see about that. But
I have very high hopes.
But I'm excited to talk about ghosts, though. It's going to be fun to hear the different perspectives. That's been the fun thing about doing these encounters this month. Like I said, we had Farthest Reaches the first month, and first week we had Cult of Florida second week. Just hearing like the different people we have on, they're different, what they bring different to the table. It's really fun. It makes for really cool episodes. So, we'll be doing one more of those, and then Halloween Day we have a release. We're going to be talking about the Jersey Devil on October 31st. That's going to be a really fun episode. I love the Jersey Devil, one of my favorite cryptids. So that's going to be super fun to talk about.
Interesting. I actually had not learned of the Jersey Devil until either this past year or last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
I know.
Yeah, I always consider him to be like one of the main four. You know, you got your Bigfoot, your Mothman, your Chupacabra, your Jersey Devil. That's I always consider as the big four.
Chupacabra was this past year. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I know.
Jesus Christ, that is
There's a lot to
insane.
learn. Okay, there was a lot out from underneath the rock. Okay, I'm still catching up.
Wow,
Be patient.
that is insane. Well, you'll learn a little more about the Jersey Devil hopefully
I'm
coming up
excited.
here in our Halloween episode. So,
I'm excited.
but yeah, keep an eye out, guys. We got more episodes coming, and Culttober is in full swing. Cult Talk Net's annual celebration of all things Halloween. We got a lot of stuff every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday of this month. We have exclusive movie reviews. What's the next episode, Bailey? Do you know? Do you have it written down?
The next episode?
Next episode of Culttober.
Culttober?
Tomorrow's episode.
I know we talked about it.
We did.
I know we talked about it before we hit record.
It is
it
Demon Night.
Demon Night.
With me, Ben, Eric, and Mike talking about Demon Night. My favorite Billy Zane movie. So
nice.
That's going to be a fun movie. And also, speaking of Cult of Lore, they have their Lovecraft episode coming up here Thursday, which I'm sure is going to be a blast.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And I know how much those guys love Lovecraft, so I'm sure it's going to be a really, really cool episode.
You may hear a familiar voice.
We might. Bailey might be over there. So
yes.
If you're a fan of Cult Talk Conspiracy, check out Cult of Lore.
Oh, yes. Y'all know how much I love Lovey.
And then Friday, we have Alien coming out. The original classic Alien we have yet to do. We did the sequel a couple years ago, but now we're doing the first film. So that's going to be good. A good episode to kind of add to that trilogy, add to that franchise. I can say trilogy because that movies. There's 7 of those movies now. So
there's only 2.
Only 2.
There's only 2. I
don't hate the first 4.
Listen, I don't care.
I don't hate the first one. Right? Resurrection I have a soft spot for Resurrection because that's the first one. That's the only one I ever got to see in theaters.
Oh,
that was the first one I ever see in theaters because I was, I wasn't old enough to go see 3.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2 came out well before I was born. So
yeah,
Resurrection I remember seeing that in theaters.
Resurrection's just it's fine.
I think it's fun. I think it's a fun flick.
It's fun. Yeah, it is fun. It's just
not a good movie, but I think it's fun.
If you want to be depressed. You got a bad day you want to have, go for it.
I think it's a fun movie. I don't like the alien at the end though. I think grosses me out, but
that one
I like the movie's pretty fun though. Yeah, we'll be talking about Alien though on Friday.
Oh, it's fun.
But until next time, guys, I think that does it for us here, Hopkinsville Goblins. Let us know down in the comments. Would you shoot the aliens if it came at you with hands up? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I'd like to think I wouldn't, but you never know what you do in that situation. So
I don't know.
I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that. But join us next Tuesday for Ghost Encounters with Essie. Make sure you follow us at Cult Talk Net across the board: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I guess not Twitter, X now. Threads as well. All the things at Cult Talk Net. If you go there, type in at Cult Talk Net, you'll probably find us. Make sure you guys keep your ears ready for all the Culttober exclusives we have dropping Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday every week this month. And they even have their own podcast feed this month. It's the first time ever. They're going to be available all as podcasts and also on our YouTube, youtube.com/culttalknet. But until next time, I've been Ty.
And I've been Bailey.
Question everything.